Number 8. The Canadian Mermaid. In the mid-1960s, passengers travelling on a ferry off the mainland in the Canadian province of British Columbia spotted something strange. A woman with long blonde hair was seen sitting on a rock for over an hour on the entrance to a body of water known as the Active Pass. But this was no ordinary woman. Witnesses say she had the lower body of a fish or porpoise. Even stranger, she was reportedly seen slurping down a silver salmon while enjoying the wake washing over her. A couple of days later, the mermaid made headlines, with the local newspaper offering up a $25,000 reward for the capture and subsequent confirmation that the mermaid was indeed real. With stories continuing to swirl about whether people truly saw her or she was the figment of an overzealous visitor's imagination, it took some time to prove that the mermaid was, in fact, a publicity stunt cooked up to promote a local fishing derby. If you're wondering how such stories get started and why some choose to believe in mythological creatures like mermaids, a Canadian reporter wondered the same thing, and it was her search for the truth that offered some insight. Looking into the roots of Canadian history, she uncovered a legend of a native who lived by a lake with his family. Warning his children not to go into the sea, the man was later devastated to find that his daughters had defied him, and having gone for a swim, they found themselves trapped. Too heavy to pull themselves from the water, the girls later grew to be snakes from below the waist, later transforming even more with long black hair and bright black eyes. Over time, more stories emerged about mermaids and their gifting energy in guiding and watching over those at sea. Mermaids were often believed to be manatees, mistaken for the mythical creature. Whether they originated in mythology or were just wishful thinking from someone stranded at sea, mermaids continue to set imaginations running wild, the same way the mermaid in mainland British Columbia did, even if the truth behind the sighting is more fiction than fact. Number 7. The Kiwi Point Mermaid. It took 50 years for a Hawaiian dive boat captain to capture a local legend on film. Reported off the coast of Hawaii's Big Island since the late 1940s, dive master Jeff Leacher finally photographed the elusive creature that locals had come to know as the Kiwi Point Mermaid. While exploring the ocean about 20 miles or 30 k's off the Kona coast, Leacher was with 6 other divers when he photographed the magical creature. Having heard stories of the slippery creature for years, Leacher was heading out to the dive spot when he noticed a school of dolphins following the boat. Thinking nothing of it at first, he continued until one of the passengers started yelling and pointing off into the distance. Scanning the horizon, Leacher spotted what looked like a nude woman about 10 feet or 3 meters from the bow of the boat. Describing her as having long flowing hair and one of the most beautiful faces he'd ever seen, Leacher immediately knew she wasn't human. Watching as she swam as fast as the pod of dolphins, he knew she was something otherworldly. Dolphins are incredibly fast creatures, and this woman was keeping up with them without a problem. Leaping into the air a couple of times before disappearing below the surface, the creature was described by Leacher as having scales across the lower half, as well as having a massive sparkling fishtail. After disappearing underwater, the mermaid seemingly disappeared, but about an hour later, when the divers were photographing fish underwater, Leacher felt something brush up against his leg. Suddenly, the mermaid shot past him like a streak of lightning. Luckily, Leacher was quick thinking and managed to snap a photo of her swimming overhead. As she broke for the surface and swam away, he captured a stunning photo that 3 noted photography labs have since verified as genuine. Studied by experts, the photos have been authenticated, lending some truth to the story that has been talked about around Kiwi Point for decades. If I was a mermaid, I'd want to hang out in Hawaii too. If you believe mermaids are real, where do you think they would be? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons too. Number 6. The Orang Ikan from Indonesia. During World War II in the 1940s, Japanese soldiers were stationed in a 555 square mile or 1400 kilometre square area in the Key Islands in Indonesia. There was a lot of action going on at this time, so the fact that soldiers recalled encounters with mermaids was a little far-fetched to say the least. Local villagers were quite familiar with these creatures, but they had a different name for them, calling them Orang Ikan, which actually translates to manfish. The creatures were described as having pink or salmon-coloured skin, being around 5 feet or 1.5 meters tall, with spikes on their skin, shoulders and neck. They were also said to have a mouth that resembled a carp. Instead of having a fishtail, like mermaids had, these creatures were said to have long arms and frog-like legs, both of which had sharp talons at the end. The Japanese soldiers recorded multiple different sightings, saying they even saw some on land suggesting they were amphibious, but mostly seemed at home in the water. In one instance, a troop of soldiers came upon a natural lagoon. They noticed some thrashing going on in the water, and when they went closer to investigate, an orangutan jumped out of the water and onto a nearby rock. It looked at the soldiers and made a gurgling, burping noise that didn't sound very friendly. They then saw another creature moving smoothly in the water, coming right at them. Not knowing the intention of the strange creatures, the soldiers started shooting. This must have frightened the creatures because they quickly disappeared from view. After the war, Taro and others went back to the islands to try and find proof of the orangutan, but they were never able to get anything definitive. Number 5. The Mermaid from Southern Africa. You might think that all of these stories of real-life encounters with mermaids come from hundreds of years ago, but as recently as 2012, workers in Zimbabwe started telling tales of mermaid sightings in a local dam. Locals started to steer clear of the Gwenhava Dam in Gokwe, claiming to have heard voices and having to chase away mermaids for stealing all the fish. Living in fear, villagers in different parts of Zimbabwe claimed that both a male and a female mermaid started to accost them. Said to live in a small river near the border of Zimbabwe and Mozambique, the mermaids are to blame for reported attacks. One such attack occurred when a primary school teacher was walking home and decided to use a shortcut by crossing a small river. Spotting something she described as a whirlwind coming towards her, the teacher was engulfed by the force and fell into the water. Claiming to see a bizarre mermaid with long hair and a male swimming alongside her, the teacher suffered arm and leg injuries as well as damage to her teeth during the attack. Another villager experienced a similar encounter, spotting what he described as a huge fish the size of an adult human in the water. Others say they often hear drumbeats and the sounds of people singing, but they never find the source of the sounds. With mermaids known to sing to lure sailors towards their rocky shores, causing the sailors to crash into the coastline, one can't help but wonder if these mermaids were doing the same to lure unsuspecting villagers to their deaths. Number 4. Mermaid of the Netherlands. In the 15th century, a story of a Dutch mermaid surfaced after milkmaids crossing a lake in the Netherlands spotted a head bobbing just above the water. At first, thinking they had imagined it, the milkmaids returned to the water one night and spotted the creature again. They described her as having long, dark hair, a human face and strong teeth. She also had a long fishtail. They watched her as she tried to swim under local boats. The mermaid became trapped by the boats and was said to have made a hideous, deafening noise. Enraged, she even used her tail to sink a couple of the boats. Later, the tired mermaid was tended to by the maids, who cleansed the seashells and moss from her hair, offering her water, milk and fish. The mermaid was suspicious of the milkmaids and didn't take the offerings at first, but after their kindness continued, she gave in and accepted their help. After that, the tale gets really strange, with reports that the mermaid was brought into a local house and domesticated, with a dame assigned to teach her how to live as a human, though she never learned how to talk and still needed help to keep her tail in a tub of water under the chair. An even weirder addition to an already fantastic tale, a reminder of the mermaid survives today, with a statue in an Edam churchyard honouring this strange creature. Number 3. Israeli mermaid. In the Israeli town of Kiryat Yam, locals and tourists have been flocking to the coast in hopes of getting a glimpse of a creature that most people believe only exists in fairy tales. In 2009, people in the town were claiming to see something that was part woman and part fish. The first local to have seen the mermaid claims that she was sunbathing, and as he and his friends approached her, she quickly jumped in the water and disappeared into the waves. They were all shocked to see that when she leaped in, she had the tail of a fish. As more stories came to light, it was apparent to some of these people that she wasn't just a mermaid, she was a very social one. The mermaid only appears at sunset, and she'd perform various tricks and acts for people near the beach before disappearing into the night. Naturally enthralled by this turn of events, the people started spreading more and more stories about the mermaid. The town council even offered a literal $1 million reward to anyone that could get a picture of the mermaid to prove that she was real. Hundreds of people swarmed the beaches in order to try and get their $1 million shot. As you can guess, it didn't work out for them. And while the mermaid has been seen since, it was not in a way that made anyone richer, and thus the hunt continues. Number 2. Scottish mermaid. In the early 1800s, a group of villagers in the Outer Hebrides off the coast of Scotland were cutting seaweed when they spotted a strange creature out in the water. After relaying the sighting to some nearby men, they tried to capture the creature, who they described as a miniature woman. After being hit with a rock from a buoy nearby, the creature cried out in pain before slipping below the surface of the water. Sadly, the creature washed ashore a few days later. Described as a well-developed woman but the size of a 4-year-old, crowds formed around this strange creature, with most agreeing it was a mythological mermaid. The local sheriff heard the story and actually had a shroud and coffin brought to the beach, promptly burying the mermaid in a nearby churchyard. Interestingly, her funeral was said to be one of the largest ever attended on the island. No one knows the true origins of the creature or why locals paid her such respect after she died, but her story is one that continues to whisper in the sound of waves crashing along the shores of local beaches. Number 1. The Orkney Mermaid. The Orkneys, a small group of islands near Scotland, seem like the perfect place for a mermaid sighting, so it might not surprise you that there have been multiple reports of selkies and finfolk. The most famous is known as the Dearness Mermaid, which took place over a few summers in the late 1800s, with hundreds of eyewitnesses swearing they'd spotted a 7-foot or 2-metre long creature with snow-white skin that swam easily in the sea. Later, in 1913, multiple sightings of a similar creature came from the southeastern coast of the Orkneys. Although no one ever got close enough, they described the creature as having scales like a fish. What the observers were clear on was that she had an elongated shape and that storms followed soon after she was spotted. Interestingly, in that area of the world, cold northern waters mix with warmer air, creating a swirling mass over the sea. The atmosphere changes, distorting things that are at sea level, making them look taller than they are wide. So could that have been the explanation for mermaid sightings in the Orkneys? Some scientists think that the top of a seal's head or even a rock can look like a towering woman, which may explain the multiple reports that came from both fishermen and villagers in this isolated part of the world. Still, it's interesting to see that so many different cultures have tales of these half-fish, half-human creatures, ones that keep the mystery of the world's oceans alive.
8. Thorny Devil. The thorny devil, also known as the mountain devil, thorny dragon, thorny lizard and moloch, typically inhabits the dusty barren desert that covers the majority of Central Australia. This lizard has a very distinctive look. Spikes and scales cover the top of their body, which helps it to defend itself from would-be predators. It also has a spiny, false head located on the back of its neck, made of soft tissue which it shows off while hiding its real head between its forelegs to confuse predators. Their spikes and scales are multicolored, red, grey, brown and tan, and they serve a specific purpose: to dissuade other creatures that may want to eat them. What kind of animal wants to swallow a lizard covered in spikes? That can't feel good. They can fill their chest with air, puffing up. Another great reason not to make this lizard a snack. They are also able to change colours to blend in with the shades of the desert. This colour-changing mechanism can only occur when a number of factors are in their favour, including time of day, weather, and actual location. Their unique look means they are sometimes mistaken for twigs by unsuspecting birds, and their long tail sometimes comes in handy, with the animal using it as an extra leg when attacked, placing it against the ground to prevent predators from flipping them over. They're not very big, only reaching about 8 inches or 20 centimeters long and weighing 70 to 95 grams or 2.5 to 3.4 ounces. Their diet consists strictly of only ants, a lot of ants, 3,000 at a time sometimes, capturing them with their sticky tongues. Another fun fact, they can drink water through their feet. They have tiny channels and microgrooves on their skin, which enables them to gather water and for it to flow without having to use their mouths. They'll often walk through dewy areas or just wait for it to rain and allow the rain to drip onto their backs, which is channeled through right into their mouths. 7. The Camel Spider. Camel spiders are nightmare creatures that have absolutely no business existing anywhere in the universe. This disgusting spider is a freakish mix between a scorpion and a spider, with a massive pair of fangs that it uses to bite unsuspecting victims and lounge around in the desert making really horrible noises. Be warned, camel spiders are known to hide in people's shadows to escape the brutal heat of the desert. You better hope it doesn't get hungry. At 6 inches or 15 centimeters in size, the camel spider is about the size of a teacup. But regardless of how big it is, the spider lives in the deserts of Iraq and you would never see one coming at you through the sand. Especially since camel spiders run at a top speed of 10 miles or 16 km per hour, according to National Geographic. How fast can you run? because I doubt you can outrun a marauding camel spider as it streaks across the desert sands. But don't worry, they are not venomous to humans. These spiders don't even like eating people, contrary to the myths of camel spiders eating soldiers while they slept during the war. They would much rather snack on some rodents, lizards, or small birds. In fact, this arachnid has massively strong jaws that are sometimes a whole third of its body length. 6. Chinchorro mummies. While you might be familiar with the mummies from ancient Egypt, you might be surprised to know that other cultures also had mummies. But where the ancient Egyptians embalmed their dead, other cultures didn't, instead allowing them to mummify naturally. The Chinchorro people of Chile are one such culture whose dry climate naturally preserved corpses. It wasn't uncommon for the Chinchorro to mummify their dead, leaving them in the sand to naturally desiccate or dry out. Known to have lived in fishing villages along the coast of Chile and Peru, the Chinchorro actually started mummifying thousands of years before the Egyptians did. But how did they start this strange practice? Some researchers think the Chinchorro people may have adopted the ritual due to environmental changes, with the Atacama Desert playing an integral role in the culture's traditions. Interestingly, the Chinchorro actually had 5 different styles of mummification, with the black and red mummies being the most common. But why did they use so many different techniques? And how did they differ? The black mummies were made by taking apart the body of the deceased, treating it, and then reassembling it. Red mummies were made in a similar way to those found in ancient Egypt by making incisions on the body to remove the organs and then drying out the body cavity. Afterward, both styles of mummy were filled with sticks and reeds, adorned with a wig and a clay mask placed on their faces. Sadly, even though these mummies have survived for thousands of years, climate change is putting them at risk. Some of the mummies being held at museums have started to deteriorate, with some even turning into a black ooze as a result of bacteria on the mummies. As conservators try to find the right combination of humidity and temperature, we can only hope they are able to preserve these mummies as a lasting legacy to the Chinchorro people. 5. Mini dinosaur. Deep in the deserts of the United Arab Emirates lives a spiny-tailed reptile known as the dub lizard. It is also known as the Samakat al-Sara, which means fish of the desert, or the dragon or little dinosaur of the desert. They're also sometimes referred to as little dinosaurs. The size of these lizards varies depending on how much they eat, with some coming in around 2 feet or 0.6 meters long. They can be dark or light grey with spots and stripes on their backs. They have a slow metabolism that allows them to go for weeks at a time without food. Lucky them! The species is actually a bit of a mystery to researchers, as they tend to hide out in burrows. They have also been known to sunbathe, lying motionless on their backs and making them look very much dead until they wriggle away and bolt back into their dens. The dub usually isn't one to fight that often, but when they do, they hiss and swing around their muscular tail and expose their teeth to scare off would-be attackers. The discovery of a bone dump with the remains of 145 lizard skeletons near an oasis site in the Saudi Arabian desert points to evidence that ancient people once ate these lizards. Part of a mosque complex, Al-Yamama, which was occupied from the 2nd century BC to the 1800s, also had layers of camel and goat bones. The find shows that the desert-dwelling nomads had been eating animals, including these mini dinosaurs, for at least 2,000 years. 4. The flick-flack spider. Researchers working in the Moroccan desert were a little surprised when they stumbled upon a spider that was able to propel itself off the ground and cartwheel up and down hills. Sabrenus reichenbergi, or the flick-flack spider, has a variety of gymnastic moves that allows it to do handsprings and somersaults to skitter across sand dunes. Using this escape maneuver allows the spider to move at a whopping 6 feet or 1.8 meters per second, which is not bad for such a small arachnid. The spider is nocturnal, feeding on moths before sunrise. The flick-flack is relatively small, with both male and female bodies measuring no more than 3/4 of an inch. It is a member of the huntsman spider family, but the flick-flack spider differs from another similar spider, the golden wheel spider, who can only cartwheel down sand dunes, but not go up. In both cases, the spider performs these maneuvers when they feel threatened. But even though this move might seem like it would get the spider out of sticky situations, it can still be dangerous to the spider itself. If they have to perform these maneuvers too many times, the spider can die of exhaustion. When it's not cartwheeling away from a predator, the flick-flack spider will walk, just like its less gymnastic cousins. Just as bizarre as the Flick-Flack's escape method are the tube-shaped homes it builds. They take sand, mix it together with their spider silk, and they build burrows in the sand dunes that protect them from the scorching heat during the day, as well as predators. 3. Chupacabra or Bigfoot. A strange-looking beast was captured on video in Portugal, and it has some people thinking it could be actual footage of the mythical Chupacabra. The video shows a strange, human-like creature pacing through the desert for a few seconds before disappearing behind a bush. The footage first surfaced in 2016. It's a little grainy and filmed at a distance, but it zooms in on the slowly moving creature. The tall being has a stooped posture and plods slowly without showing any signs that it knows it's being filmed. But could it really be evidence of the infamous goatsucker talked about in Central and South American legend? The Chupacabra is well known in Latin American cultures. It's often the culprit farmers blame when they find their goats and cattle with their blood drained. Reports of the strange animal first started in the 1990s when sightings of the creature, which was said to be about 5 feet or 1.5 meters tall, with spikes down its back and long claws, surfaced. But the first sighting took place in Puerto Rico when a local woman spotted what she thought was an alien-like creature out her window. So how could this footage from Portugal be the same type of creature? The original story spread across Puerto Rico, then traveled to Latin America and into the United States. Even as UFO enthusiasts latched onto the story, it took on a life of its own, and now it seems to have jumped to Portugal, where this new footage surfaced. Either way, stories of this kind are not only bizarre, but they seem to spread far and wide, taking on a life of their own. 2. Pterodactyl fossil. The discovery of a 210-million-year-old dinosaur in the Utah desert was quite impressive on its own. But as scientists did further research, they believed it may have been the first flying vertebrate on Earth. The discovery of these new fossilized remains would push the timeline of flying vertebrates back by 65 million years to the Triassic period. The pterodactyl was a very strange creature with a pelican-like pouch. It had massive fangs and a wingspan of 5 feet or 1.2 meters. Was it a bird? Was it a dinosaur? It was actually neither, but it lived at the same time as the dinosaurs. The specimen found in Utah was remarkably well preserved, with a nearly intact skull, including brain case, the lower jaws, and part of a wing. It was also much larger than other pterosaurs that existed around the same time. Before this discovery, there were only 30 known fossilized remains of Triassic pterodactyls, with nothing more than a single bone. And they were always found in the Alps, never in the desert. Scientists now think they were more widely distributed around the planet and in more varied environments than originally thought. Number 1. Whale Graveyard. A trove of 40 fossilized whale skeletons were found next to the Pan American Highway when excavations were being performed to expand the highway through the Atacama Desert in Chile. It's believed to be the richest treasure trove of fossil marine mammals ever found. The find included the bones of whales, dolphins, seals, large fish similar to swordfish, and an extinct species of aquatic sloths that were believed to have lived from 6 to 9 million years ago. Initial explanations pointed to a mass stranding. When whales die, they usually rest on the seabed, but after analyzing the conditions, orientation, and position of the bones, the animals are believed to have died at sea, later washing ashore. Pointing to harmful algae blooms, the animals would have suddenly died from ingesting the toxins, becoming buried in the tidal flat. It isn't an uncommon occurrence. Even modern marine animals suffer the same fate. But, remarkably, researchers believe the same thing happened more than once, with the remains found in 4 different layers. Over time, the bones were covered by tectonic plates that pushed the shoreline up, later transforming into a desert about a half-mile from the modern-day coastline.
Number 10. The Black Hole. Water slides make us feel a sense of nostalgia. How can you not? Remember being a kid and feeling the wind in our hair and water under our butts as we hurl down a slide into a big pool? Well, sometimes that feeling never leaves us, even as adults. Do you still enjoy water slides? Because the world doesn't fall short of offering amazing slides that even grown-ups can enjoy, like this one, the Black Hole. With a name like the Black Hole, it isn't surprising that this water slide would offer a thrilling ride for those looking to cool off on a hot summer day. Located in Bremerhaven, Germany, The slide is what one might imagine sliding through a black hole in space would be like. The riders start their journey off in total darkness. The water slide starts flashing red, green and blue lights to set the tone for one wild experience. LED rainbows, dot patterns and shooting stars are the other light effects you will be treated to if you have the stomach, heart and eyes for the dazzling display. It almost makes you feel like you're travelling through time or to a new futuristic dimension. Originally, the black hole was just a simple tunnel slide, but the owners of the leisure pool, Bad One, upgraded it to a tube slide with various light effects and daylight rings to give an out-of-this-world experience for visitors. At 256 feet or 78 metres long and 25 feet or almost 8 metres tall, the black hole is an eye-catching water slide that takes thrill-seeking to the next level. Number 9. Divertical. The next time you're at the amusement park and you feel like you have to choose between a roller coaster and a water slide, you won't have to pick just one. At Mirabilandia, an amusement park in Italy, the Divertical ride combines the action of a coaster with the refreshing fun of a water slide for one unique ride that you'll want to go on again and again. It's the highest water coaster in the entire world. The Divertical is for the adrenaline junkies who want to take a ride in an offshore-style race boat. Stretching 164 feet or 50 metres into the air, the ride features single-car trains that can reach speeds of up to 59 miles per hour, almost 100 kilometres per hour. Unlike traditional water slides that pump water from the top, sending riders quickly down to the bottom, the Divertical combines the wet and wild fun with the thrill of twists, turns and deep dives down tall arches and coaster tracks. It begins by sending riders to the top on a high-speed conveyor belt. Riders in their specially designed raft will travel up electrifying peaks and plunge into a refreshing pool below. This is a wild ride that gives visitors the best of both worlds. Number 8. Shimalong Water Park, China. A Chinese water park that supposedly has the highest attendance numbers in the entire world, Shimalong Water Park offers 3 exclusive water slides that have definitely put the park on the map. With the funnel-shaped Tornado 60, Behemoth Bowl 60 and Kids Tornado 24, the park, located in Guangzhou, China, first opened its doors in 2006. Since then, it has been a top attraction for locals and tourists alike. Even if you aren't much of a thrill seeker, there are also rides that are a little more tame and massage pools for those who want to simply relax and enjoy the day. But the fun doesn't only take place in the sun. At night, the park transforms into a flashy party-like atmosphere with a DJ, an aquatic flying trapeze team, and other water shows that use jet-powered water to propel their performers through the air. Talk about a killer atmosphere. One that makes visitors feel like they are spending the night out at a club. With over 2 million visitors every year, the setting at Shimalong is also quite stunning. Stone temples overgrown with vines and tombs that peek out from beneath breathtaking waterfalls, you are in for a fully immersive experience, one that is both visually and physically thrilling. Number 7. Cyclone and Vertigo. The next time you head to the beautiful country of Spain on vacation, be sure to drop in at Aqualandia. It's an amusement park that has 15 water slides for all ages to enjoy. Home to Europe's highest standing slide as well as the highest capsule slide, Aqualandia is the perfect place for adrenaline junkies. Start with a lazy float along an 8-foot or 2.5 metre approach. You'll be carried into a large vortex that spans 65 feet or 20 metres, catapulting you down a 45-degree angle slope into a plunge pool below. The largest water park in all of Europe, Aqualandia has numerous slides, including ones that are a little tamer, like the jacuzzi-style pool, complete with a waterfall and an exotic cave for those who want a more relaxed vacation experience. But it's also home to slides where riders race down wildly curving tubes in a race to the finish. Aqualandia also has a breathtaking freefall attraction called the Vertigo, with a 10-foot or 3-metre drop. Definitely not for the faint of heart, but one thrilling way to spend your day cooling off. What's your favourite type of water slide? Ones in a raft or slides that drop? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. Wet n Wild Orlando. Home to all kinds of fun, Orlando is mostly known for Disney World and Universal Studios, but there is also an awesome water park there too. Not all good things can last forever though, not even water parks. It was a sad day for residents of Orlando when America's first water park, Wet n Wild, closed its doors in 2016. But before that, the park had quite the reputation. It was rated one of the top water parks in the USA. Wet n Wild set the bar for the variety of attractions, including high-speed body rides and lazy rivers for those who just wanted a day of taking it easy in the warm weather. With its 250-foot or 76-metre near-vertical water slide Des Stuka, Bombay, a trapdoor slide that featured a 6-storey plunge, and Disco H2O that launched visitors through a groovy light and show sound, Wet n Wild really lived up to the hype. But despite all its success, Wet n Wild also had some not-so-great events take place, including an injury to a man that resulted in a $1.73 million lawsuit. After getting struck by something on his way down the ride, the man could not move his legs after landing at the bottom. But before the mishap, the park enjoyed much success with over a dozen water slides, plunge pools, surf coasters and inner tube rides. The park was built in the 1970s with multiple expansions, more thrilling rides and special live music and dance festivals. Wet n Wild was not only a great place to spend time for those on long summer days, but it has a place in Orlando history. Have you ever been to Wet n Wild? What was your favourite ride there? Let us know in comments. Number 5. Cheetah Chase. Water slides are fun and inner tubes are a great way to chill, but if you're more of a thrill seeker, the Cheetah Chase ride at Holiday World in Indiana is the ride for you. The first ever water coaster that allows you to race against other riders, the Cheetah Chase uses special water-powered flat launch that will propel you through the ride. With 4 riders allowed per raft, you can gather a group of friends and go head-to-head with another team through rally points and flying saucer elements that feature a wild curve to launch you through the course even faster. This 1,700-foot or 520-metre long ride is the world's first launched water coaster. Relatively new on the scene, it first opened in 2020, but has made quite the splash, pun intended, blasting riders up to 27 feet or 8 metres in the air and reaching a top speed of 30 feet or 9 metres per second. Hold on to your britches. Number 4. King Cobra. It isn't uncommon for riders to get a little enthusiastic while taking a ride down a water slide. Sometimes things can go a little off the rails, which is what happened to a pair of friends who were visiting Six Flags Hurricane Harbor in New Jersey one summer. Home to the King Cobra, a snake-themed ride that offered a unique experience for guests, Six Flags is a well-known theme park throughout the USA. Shaped in a figure 8, riders could slide down one of 2 tubes, racing to the sidewinder portion at the end that was shaped like the mouth of a massive cobra. Yikes! Unfortunately, the ride had a bit of a setback when a woman was injured on the 256-foot or 78-metre racing slide. Using a double tube from another ride, the visitor and a friend took to the King Cobra, but because of the different tubes she used and the fact that both riders exceeded the maximum weight allowance, they got a little too much speed when going down the ride and slammed into the mouth of the snake. Ouch! After racing through the circular path, through the various twists and turns, they were going down the sudden 25-foot or 7.5-metre plunge. The momentum was just too much for the riders to handle. Plunging at a 50-degree angle, they went slamming into the jaws of the cobra, with one of the riders breaking her ankle in the too fast, too furious process. Sadly, due to the negative publicity of the subsequent lawsuit filed by the rider, the park decided to remove the ride to make way for another one. And even though there are other rides and the King Cobra was replaced, it still has a fond place in the hearts of visitors who had the chance to experience this rip-roaring ride. Do you think it's fair that the ride had to be closed down after someone too heavy and using the wrong tube hurt herself? Let me know in the comments below. Number 3. Ciudad del Mar. Sure, heading to your local water park is a fun way to spend a summer day, but why not go all out and take a dip in the Mediterranean while you're at it? The Ciudad del Mar Hotel in Sicily has an exclusive feature for guests, a 3-level water slide that will catapult you directly into the sea below. Carved into the face of a cliff, the toboggan slide drops riders into 3 different plunge pools throughout the ride, with the final slide sending you shooting out into the Mediterranean Sea. Located at one of the largest holiday resorts in Sicily, the 11 slides split over 4 levels offer spectacular views of the Gulf of Castellamare. With breathtaking views over the bay, the resort also has various pools, beautiful gardens and entertainment every night at an outdoor amphitheatre. But the water slides are a thrilling addition for those who want to experience a bit of a thrill along with the gorgeous view, not to mention the clear blue Mediterranean Sea from the highest slide in Europe. Number 2. Dolphin Plunge. Ready to take a twisting, turning ride through an underwater world? Then head to Aquatica, the water park at SeaWorld Orlando. With twin slides that send visitors in a corkscrewing ride, riders are plunged into total darkness before being blasted back through the underwater tube, surrounded by a black and white Commerson's dolphin pod. These playful porpoises are known to get up to electrifying speeds, so don't be surprised if one of them races alongside you as you catapult down your racing tube. These playful animals love to swim upside down, so after you experience the thrill of your ride, you can visit one of the viewing windows to watch them frolic through their underwater playground. A combination of excitement and the beauty of nature, Dolphin Plunge has something for everyone and gives visitors the feeling of swimming with one of nature's friendliest animals at a beautiful and fun pace. Number 1. Aquaventure. With over 30 slides and attractions, Atlantis Dubai is one of the world's largest water parks. Showcasing epic heights, wild turns and thrilling high-speed drops, you will definitely get your money's worth at this killer attraction-filled park. Whether you take the plunge down the Odyssey of Terror with its chilling drop to experience true weightlessness, or blast a raft down the almost 1,500 foot or through a series of dark tunnels, the rides at Aquaventure are not short on thrills. If these wild rides aren't for you, Medusa's Lair is waiting for you, with an intricate web of twists and turns that send you zooming through dark caves, down steep slopes and dropping you into the plunge pool at the bottom. With gravity-defying rides, hypnotic racing tubes and adrenaline-fueling body slides, you can race to your heart's content. A truly satisfying day out for all adrenaline junkies. Thanks for watching! Which of these water slides would you like to try? Have you had the chance to experience any? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!